Good afternoon and welcome to the Workday Recap here on the Dev Mentor Dave channel. Good to see you back here on a Monday morning or Monday afternoon. Man, I'm already confused. Monday afternoon. If you are watching live, jump in the chat, say hello, join the conversation. Workday Recap is where we get together for about 30 minutes at the end of the workday and just talk about something that happened in my day, something that happened in your day, maybe just a question that you have around uh, being a developer in the development world and things that are scary, things that are uncertain, things that are positive. We'll talk about a lot of different things. So feel free to jump in the chat and say hello and share your questions and comments, and we will dive into them this afternoon. So good to see Mel back this afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for jumping in here. We'll see if we have any other stragglers uh, come into the fold here as we go. Ming, good to see you, Ming. It's kind of funny. The number of viewers is slower to update than they get in the chat. So if you're watching live, jump in the chat so I know that you're watching, because the number of viewers doesn't update perfectly, I don't think, here on Twitch. But somehow we got another follower. I don't know who that was or where they came from, but that's cool. We're up to 8 followers now, and so that's awesome. Apparently, I was looking at the statistics here this afternoon right before I jumped on, and I guess 50. There's, I guess, 25. I've met all the requirements for whatever the affiliate thing or whatever it is, except I just need 25 followers. So I got to get like 17 more followers or something like that. I need to do a push video for YouTube that sends people over here to join the followership on this as well. So I don't know. You kind of have to grow multiple platforms at the same time if you want to try to increase your reach on both of the platforms. So it has been interesting doing the video uploads from the live stream. Seems to be getting more views than doing the ones just the live stream on both places. So I think it's been actually a good thing to do the live streams over here and then push them up to YouTube as separate videos. So I don't know. We'll see. At the end of the day, as long as somebody jumps on and is encouraged or helped by what we're doing, that's really all that matters in the end. So I don't expect this to ever turn into some massive channel or something like that. For those of you that might be wondering, my back is feeling better. Not completely healed for sure, but I've been able to pretty much work all day today with no real hindrances. I laid down for a few minutes, kind of over the lunch hour, just to relieve a little bit of pain. But I actually haven't taken any. I took some medicine this morning, but I haven't taken any since then. So that's always good when you don't feel like you have to take it. So that's nice. But anyway, so that's moving forward. Thankfully, feeling better there. Hopefully not as jittery and stuff from the medication. I don't like taking medication, so thankfully I don't do it very often. I haven't had to do it very often, so hopefully the pain subsides over time and everything works out pretty well moving forward. So that's the goal. But anyway, let's see here. Ming says, what makes a good junior candidate for the role? My final round is tomorrow. Honestly, in my opinion, the best thing for a junior developer, if I'm interviewing them, is I want to know how they go about learning new things and how interested they are in learning new things. Because I'm not just talking about AI, but talking about everything that has to do with development. There's more than anyone could ever learn completely, that you could go down, you could incorporate. So things are constantly changing. We always want to have people who are on our teams not just being able to do the things that we do, but being interested in all the other stuff that's out there and even taking their own time to learn that. So one of the things that companies really appreciate is when you upscale yourself at your own expense of time and or money, right? Because that's money they don't have to pour into it. That's time they don't have to pour into it. So if you are a curious person, if you're somebody who wants to learn and grow your career and your knowledge, that's going to be attractive to most companies that are looking to hire a junior dev. Plus, the whole point of hiring a junior dev is so that you can pour into them, not just the money, but just so you can pour into them the way you do things and how you want things to be done. And when you hire a senior dev, a lot of times it's harder to get somebody like me who's been doing it for 15, 20 years to change the way they do things. We get real old. like Mean keeps telling me I'm a grandpa, right? We get old and set in our ways, and we don't really want to change. But sometimes there's good reasons to change, and so I think if they feel like you are a good culture fit, like you're saying, they're probably hopefully getting that vibe that you're somebody who's going to be interested in doing what they want you to do and working within their system. So, but that's awesome. Final round is tomorrow. How many rounds was that total? I mean, because that's what, 4 rounds or so. And was this one of the ones that had the take home requirement? Yeah, as especially Mel, you're right on the nose on that, because you can always teach somebody processes and procedures and languages and things like that. You can't necessarily teach somebody to fit in with a group of people. So if they feel like you're a good culture fit, that's always a good sign, because if they have the right attitude themselves, then they'll be willing to pour into your growth. And the one thing that I would say with that is, we have 4 rounds in simple online system. Okay, yeah. So I figured it was about that just based on other conversations. But, that's something that we always want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward, but we also want to make sure that we're not giving a false best foot, right? We want to be real to who we are, but we also need to realize that who we are may not fit in every situation. Some companies may not want a very gregarious person on their dev team. They might want somebody who's just going to sit down and work tickets, and that's just the philosophy that they have for their environment and their company. And while that may not be the way I would run a dev team, it works for some people. And so a culture fit doesn't necessarily mean that you are unteachable, but it does give you a lot of good standing and good grace in the teachability aspect. If they feel like you're a team player, if they feel like you're somebody who can connect with other members of the team, then they probably feel like they can teach you the things that they think you need to know. And especially if you, even in the interview, I've had interviews where a junior developer would just be honest and say, I don't really know. I haven't really experienced that, or I don't really know much about that topic or something like that. And if it's something that I know that we can teach them, that doesn't bother me at all. I would rather know where somebody is and what they the experience that they have and the knowledge that they have, but also their ability to learn new things. I'd rather not know those things for a junior developer, and know that I can then pour into them and teach them the way that we do things, the way that we want something to be done in a process flow or a particular framework or something like that, right? I do agree with that. I mean, it is often about the energy that you bring. If you give off good energy, it does penetrate through the team. And even what we were talking about the other day with interviewers that don't know how to break the ice, right? If you can jump in there and break the ice, um, it makes it much easier for them even to kind of see you as somebody who can jump in and be a part of the team, right? So again, I don't want to necessarily put a bunch of undue stress on people in the interview process, but you need to be who you are. Don't lie. Need be who you are, but who you are should be somebody who can communicate effectively, somebody who can communicate what you know and what you don't know, who can communicate an energy or desire to learn new things, especially if you know that they work in a certain field, or that they work in a certain tech stack that you're not familiar with, showing interest in and even asking questions about how they use certain things. For example, let's say you're interviewing at a company and they're a Laravel shop, and you don't know a whole lot about Laravel. So do some research about Laravel and ask them questions about how they implement Laravel. Like, Laravel comes with blade templating. Do you guys use blade templating, or do you use something like inertia with Vue or with React? Questions like that where you're like, I don't necessarily know how this all works, but I'm interested in how you guys are doing it. Shows not only an ability to learn, but shows an interest in participating in what they're doing and learning what they're doing and how they're doing the things that they're doing for their projects. So it's all about connecting at the end of the day. In fact, I remember the first job that I had that was not working for my brother. I've told different aspects of the story, but I remember going in. I had done that WordPress theme in under a day and sent it in. They set up an interview the next day, so I went in for the interview, and interview went really well. They seemed happy with me. It felt like a really good fit to me. And I remember I came home and I told my wife, I said, I really hope I get that job, because that was a really, really, like, I've never felt like a connection in an interview like that before, which I hadn't had that many anyway, but I had never, it was a totally different vibe. Like, there was just a feeling there that I really was going to be disappointed if I didn't get that job. And it turns out I did actually get that job. So I think you can kind of sense that as you go through some of those interview processes. You can kind of get a feel if you can lay aside some of the nerves and just worry about connecting with the people that you are interviewing with. It is amazing how that simple connection from one human to another can cause them to kind of not worry about some of the things that we would typically worry about. So if you have a great connection with a hiring manager and maybe you don't have the same skill level as somebody else who doesn't have a great connection, you're probably going to actually be a little bit higher on the totem pole because of the connection that you have. Now, again, that doesn't mean you need to go out of your way to be something that you're not, because you don't want to show up there on day one and be totally different than the person that they interviewed, right? But it is important that you look for ways to connect. You look for legitimate ways to connect the way that you are, your personality, your experiences with them and what they're doing as a company, not just who they are as individuals, not just be the funny interview that came in and made us laugh, but be somebody who communicates and connects with them around technology, around goals for their company. That's another thing maybe you can consider talking about. What are the goals that you have for this role? If I were to come in here, how can I help your company, our company, move up, and what does that look like? What does it look like from day one to the first year of employment? What are some of those goals? Not even expectations, but just goals. I want to know what your dreams are as a company for me coming in this role. How can I help you meet your dreams? Because a lot of times we get focused on like KPIs, key performance indicators, and we get caught up in metrics and things like that. But really, at the end of the day, the people at the top levels are more visionary. They're more goal oriented. They're not necessarily metric oriented. We kind of have this false sense of goal achievement because of metrics. But we use so many different weird metrics from one company to another that I don't know that we really have perfect metrics to meet the goals that they're really looking for, which usually are like revenue goals or growth goals or things like that. So what you want to do is understand the direction they're trying to go and show your interest in that direction and show your desire to be a part of that process in getting to the goals that they're looking for. Let's see. Ming says they asked if I knew Python. Then I said I know very basic scripts, and through appreciated my honesty. Yeah, exactly. Again, I think almost every company is going to appreciate you being honest about what you're doing. Even if they can't hire you because you don't have a specific skill that they need, they're going to appreciate the fact that you didn't try to snowball them, right? You're not going to burn a bridge there if you do something like that, right? So if you're honest, then it's hard to burn bridges when you're honest, unless you're just honest in a mean way. Then you could probably do it. Um, some of my friends say I have very high EQ, you know, to connect and purr. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's the thing, and I think that is a key a lot of people miss in the interview process. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about what you should and shouldn't say. We spend a lot of time um, practicing your elevator speech for yourself, and um, you know, making sure that you have good resume points on your resume and that you can talk about the work that you've done and things like that. And those are all good things, and they're all things that I have recommended and do recommend in the past. But at the end of the day, I think the thing really that matters the most is trying to find that connection. And like I said, in that interview, there were three people in their interview. Two of them were more on the technical side, and then one of them was the creative director, which is who I was going to be under. And it was really the creative director that I felt the most connection with. And I feel like we really hit it off very well. And I know from later conversations that she liked me, and the other two guys didn't have any good reasons why I shouldn't be able to do the job. So, you know, I think that was that. I think the ability to have that honest, open communication and connection with somebody in the room, especially with probably the highest decision maker, that is really, really huge. And that again is why I think in many cases the best way to get a job is through referrals. Um, referrals, you look at even the statistics today, referrals are still the quickest way to get a job in any tech industry, right? And I think the reason for that is because if you're being referred, you already have a connection with somebody. It may not be somebody in the exact department that you are trying to get get connected with or get hired into, but you have a connection. There is a relationship that has already been formed to some degree with somebody in that company. And so that's why referrals tend to work so well. And that's why, again, if you're going into an interview, especially a cold interview, understanding who in the interview seems to have the most power, um, but also who you can connect with pretty easily. That is a great skill to grow. Finding a way to connect with somebody who is a decision maker, um, that's really huge in the process. Mel says it sounds kind of like a dating company or dating a company. Yeah, it is kind of like dating a company. I mean, well, it's either that or sales, right? So people tell you all the time, if you want to get a job, you have to sell yourself. You have to be a salesman of you. And so, I mean, let's be honest, dating is not a whole lot different from that either, right? So it is kind of like dating the company or dating, you know, a child of the company, maybe having some sort of relationship that you're kind of building through that process, through that conversation as it goes. But I think with that, again, we have to remember that we need to be salespeople of ourselves that have integrity, right? We don't want to be just salespeople who give a false impression, who make people think that we can do things that we can't do. I mean, I've seen developers come in to situations where they oversold themselves and they're given a specific piece of work, and 2 weeks later they're still not done with it, something that based on the way they talked about it, they should have been an expert at it. They should have really known what they were doing. And so I've seen that happen in other instances. And so you want to be careful. That's again why I say be honest. That's the integrity part, right? Make connections, but be honest about where you're at in your journey, and be interested in what they're doing. If you are interviewing at a company and you really have no interest in, you know, building CAD drawing software, right? But that's what they do for a living. But you're just so desperate to get a job, you're willing to work anywhere. Like you're you're not going to have a very good chance of getting a job there because they're just your heart is not going to be in it. You're not going to be interested in making connections with people there. You don't really care about what they're doing, right? So I always encourage you find something about that company that they do that you want to be a part of, that you want to learn, that you want to grow. Because when you show interest in what they are doing, they're going to be more interested in you. Because here's the thing, if you are interested in what somebody's doing, you're going to put more time and effort and energy into understanding it and following their best practices and doing the things that they want you to do. If you're not interested in it, they're going to have to pull you along for at least for some period of time to get you to do what you need to do to help them out as a company. So, um, the more interest you have and the more interest you show in what they're doing, the again, the better that connection grows and is so much easier for you to get that connection built and probably get the job. Mel says, when you say the person with the most power, can that be anyone? Do some companies let their engineers make decisions in the team? Yeah, it literally could be anybody depending on the team, Mel. It could be a hiring manager. It could be a lead developer. For example, you might have a hiring manager that's not very technical. And so they lean on the opinion of a lead developer to do evaluations both on fit as well as on your abilities and knowledge and skill set. So um, it really could be anybody in the room. It's not necessarily the person with the highest title. It's the person usually that you're going to have to interact with the most. So like a lead developer, and that in my instance, most of my job came from the creative director. The other guys were I really didn't interact with. They were kind of on their own little stuff, but they were the technical guys, so they got brought into the interview to make sure that I wasn't, blowing smoke. So they were there more for the technical chops, but they were not the ones with the final say. She had the final say. So that's easy to figure out. Sometimes it's not. You might be able to figure that out more based on the types of questions that are being asked, or who's asking questions. So if you've got somebody with a higher title, but they don't really seem to be that involved in the interview, they're probably just there because they're the one that's in charge of the hiring process. And so maybe you don't focus on them as much since they're not really offering questions in the process. It can be a little bit difficult for some companies. Like for example, with our company, we might have a couple of different um, uh, directors on the call. We might have our COO on the call. So there could be a number of people, and it might be hard to tell because we'll all ask questions. And so that can be a little bit harder, I think, to make a connection on just one person. But hopefully, we try to make a connection with you, with the interviewee, either way. But yeah, so I mean, it could vary from one company to another who the actual person is that you need to connect with. And I would say if you happen to be going through a recruiter, that'd be a good question to ask the recruiter as well. Who's the person who's going to be making the decision if they know, and um, any insight that they might have to be able to connect with them and what they are thinking and wanting and desiring in this role. So, excuse me, man. Whew. So yeah, I mean, it could be literally anybody, but I think those are some helpful, hopefully, ways for you to kind of evaluate that even in the process. So the people who are talking the most probably are the ones that have the most say. They're the ones that are going to be the most concerned. But definitely don't ignore anybody in the room for sure. Let's see. Some company software and tools are incredible. Use architect software that eats loads of data and spits out models of power lines. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of cool stuff out there that people are building, especially even now with AI, right? Uh, Second stage, the technical lead, I build a really good rapport with. Yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind too, especially if they have a multi-step process. Man, you might end up having to kind of build relationships with multiple people along the way. Um, I've only been in a few interview processes that were multi-step, multiple interviews. And in both of those instances that I can think of, there was at least one person that was in both of them. And so that's something that I would take note of too. If you have to go through multiple steps of interviews, who, if anyone, is still in that interview the second time or the third time, so that you know they're probably really, really close to the decision maker, or they are the decision maker, and they're just trying to get feedback from other people in the team, most likely. Either that, or they're simply a facilitator, and that can be hard to decipher as well. Because if they're just a facilitator, then they're just there to make sure that other people showed up for the meeting, that you showed up for the meeting, right? Taking notes or something like that. So again, that's where not only who is there, but how much are they participating in the actual process of the interview is really key for me, for figuring out who you should be connecting with the most. Yes. Okay. So there you go. So Ming saying he's going to see that technical lead and the director tomorrow in the next interview. So yeah, that's good that you've got. So he's already got that rapport built up, which is really good. And then so going into that interview, the nice thing is having built that rapport, you can walk into an interview, a second interview, third interview with more confidence and clarity and less nerves, because you've already had a form of communication that was successful with somebody in that firm, right? And so it's never going to get rid of all of those feelings, but you can definitely greatly reduce your stress and greatly reduce your um, concerns going into an interview with new people if you've already built the rapport with somebody who is going to be in those other interviews as well. So that's really good. I'm really glad to hear that the person that you have that relationship with already is going to be in there, especially if you have a good rapport. They're going to be much more likely to be helpful in your interview if you hit a point where you're not sure what they're asking or something like that. Somebody who already has a rapport with you is going to be much more likely to reach out and rephrase something, or kind of help you with the process. Excuse me, sorry guys. So that's also very helpful, and another good reason why you want to build rapport with people early on in the process and make some of those connections, because you've shown that you want to help them succeed, and that also tends to be reciprocated back. If they have a good rapport with you, they're going to want to see you succeed as well, especially if, like you said, they feel like you're a good fit for the company. Man, when you find somebody you think's a good fit for the company, you are much more likely to allow them to be lesser in certain skills and knowledge because of that ability to find somebody that fits well, right? Especially from a junior standpoint, where they're going to probably want you to learn a lot of things their way. That's going to be huge. So they're going to tend, if you've already built up some relationship there, they're going to tend to want to help you and encourage you, and even make things a little bit easier in the process. Even sometimes I've had people cut other interviewers off to clarify something, because they already had a connection with the interviewee, and to help make sure that they understood what they were actually looking for. So it's a very interesting part and a dynamic to interviews that you don't hear a lot of people talking about, right? We hear about making sure your resume is up to date and making sure that you're showing the way that you've helped other companies in the past, or using metrics that are, I helped my company save 35% on AWS costs. I don't know, just weird things like that, right? And I get why people want to push those things, but for me, in especially in this day and age, I think you are much more likely to get to the next level and potentially into a higher position if you can make a connection with somebody early on in that process. So that's really great that you've already started down that road. You've got a connection with this lead, and as you go into that tomorrow, that should just give you some more confidence and clarity, knowing that you've sort of already got somebody on your side, to help you with that process and move through what hopefully is the last step in that process for you. I think I just spilled water all over myself. That's fun. Whew, cold. All right, so it is 1/2 past now, so we're going to go ahead and shut it down after our 30 minutes here on the Dev Mentor Day channel on the Workday recap. Good conversation around. Thanks for laughing at me, Mel. Good conversation around interviews and kind of a different approach to them than we usually talk about. So I thought that was helpful. So good questions there, guys. If you are watching this on YouTube later, if you have questions about the interview process, if you have questions about connecting, anything that we talked about today, or other questions that you'd like me to address tomorrow or upcoming Workday recaps, we'll be doing that here 4 p.m. Monday through Friday most of the time. There will be about a week off here that I'm not going to be on the Workday recap, so I will be gone Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So basically a whole week starting this coming Thursday. I will not have Workday recaps, as I will be out of town for my board game weekend with some friends. Going to be nerding out there, and then I will be at Laracon next week. So that's the plan anyway. So if anybody watching this is going to be at Laracon, say hello. Drop by. You can find who I worked for and the company I work for on my LinkedIn profile, and you can find our booth there. We'll be there at Laracon if anybody happens to show up. But anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, go over to the Twitch channel and hit the follow button so we can start building our followers over here on Twitch, and just start getting our live streams out to more people here on the Twitch side. But obviously I'm going to be uploading this, so you're watching it on YouTube at this point. Leave a comment and or a question or something. I read all of those, and I try to respond either there in the comment section, or I'll respond live on a live stream in the future. So thanks everybody for jumping in here. It was good to see you, Ming and Mel. Hopefully you guys are having a good day so far. Well, I know Mel's over in the UK, so you're probably, I don't know what time it is over there, but it's much later than it is here. But good to see you guys. Thanks for jumping in. I always enjoy chatting with you. Again, that's what we're here for. So if you're ever watching live on LinkedIn, jump in the chat. That's what we want to do. We want to chat with you guys, help you guys out, answer questions that you might have. Not just here to pontificate, but as you can tell, I do that very well as well. So there you go. Anyway, have a great day, guys. I will see you tomorrow.